Last week, we discussed ensemble system, which is basically trying to combine models. And I explained to us that sometimes we move to this level. Sometimes it could be additional effort, but then it could really worth it if we are really in need of accuracy. I mean, more performance output that is better. So, and then we took us through different types, why ensemble works from a mathematical point of view. We introduce ourselves using basic concepts, bagging, boosting. We discuss value of ensemble and real life examples also to support it up. And we even encourage ourselves to try to practicalize a few of these examples. So we describe the working principle of ensemble. The general idea, how we use different data or the same data to train. Either you can use it to train the same classifier or use it to train different classifier. However, we said that from experience of people and recommendation, they said it is better to have different algorithms to hopefully be able to get better results. However, it is not compulsory. You can train the same algorithm in different ways by changing the parameter of the algorithm, using different parameter values, and then generating the base classifier. So we move on to let us realize that when you talk of ensemble, you have your data. This is the complete data. You break them down into different samples. Use sample one to train this base learner, which is the algorithm number one, the second algorithm up to the last one. And use the opportunity to let us realize that sometimes people make mistake by referring to algorithm as a model. Algorithm is not a model. It is when you use the data to train that algorithm. So train the algorithm on the available data, it is then that you produce model. It is the outcome of the training that produce model. So we have model one as outcome of this training process, model two up to the last number of model. And then you have, if you are using majority class voting, we have what we call the ballot box there. So when you have new cases, each of this model, we predict that's new test example and say, okay, this one belongs to class one, this one say it belongs to class two, up to M, then we count it as, okay, we give the class that has or that's achieved majority vote, just like the classical system. If you train like 15 classifier, 7 of them are saying this is class one, another of them is saying, no, this is class two. So now, so we try to remind ourselves of this. Then we give this classical example of how a single model might not be able to get the maximum accuracy we want, but when we systematically combine them, this is a linear model. A single linear model was able to separate into negative and positive, but then we still have negative this side. We brought in second one, linear, we brought in the third one. The three of them were able to fully separate positive class from negative class with 100% accuracy. We said this is the power of ensemble model. What an individual model can never achieve, no matter how hard you try. We say that the idea of ensemble is that sometimes you train a model, a single model, you try all possible options we described in our previous lectures. For example, try to make sure the data is clean, try to make sure there's no noise. If there is noise, try to resolve it. Make sure if there is outlier, try to treat the outlier. Try to change using different algorithms. Try to do feature selection and host of other methods we have already discussed on how you can improve the accuracy of your prediction. But yet, sometimes things get stuck. It doesn't improve any further. You are getting maybe 85% and you are looking up to 90%. Then at that point in time, ensemble method might be when you should give it a try. It could be the one that could bail you out, as we are going to see in the example that we gave ourselves last time. So that is why we can see here that, and as individual model, none of them is even close to maybe 80%. We brought in 2. By the time you brought in 3, this is an hypothetical demonstration of how an ensemble, when the 3 of them collaborate together, they were able to achieve 100% accuracy, which was not possible for any individual model. Or if I take away this guy, you can see that we're going to have negative here, negative and positive. You see the percentage of accuracy will be low. If I take away any of these guys, so everybody is important. But if they stand alone, they cannot achieve the job. And I think this is in our natural way of life as human beings. When we combine together, we combine our effort together in a group, we tend to achieve better results than when an individual is doing it. And that is the power of ensemble. So then we gave the success stories of how very popular competitions could only be, the winners are always those people that combine several algorithms, several teamwork before they were able to achieve the accuracy. We describe it. So, and then we move on to describe how to learn it, how to learn to develop an ensemble. First of all, try, get your data, get different model out of it, and then you have a model combiner. So we told her the model combiner could be single bagging, where that is where you just take majority votes. Majority vote. We don't care about the accuracy of each of them. Then we have the boosting. We are in boosting is saying, okay, we have to give more importance to the guy that has higher accuracy. So we can, like a doctor, a highly experienced doctor. So he should not be given 1 vote just like a new doctor. So we give him more votes. But then we said it has its own problem. So if it's going to make a mistake, then we are also going to be increasing its own mistake by multiplying by 2. We say because as a classifier 1 has achieved 95% accuracy, classifier 2 achieved 85. So we give this guy 2. We said any single foot from this classifier, is times 2. From this guy, it is 1. But then this guy is having, this classifier is only, this model is achieving only 95% accuracy, which means there's a 5% error. So anytime that 5% error comes up, we are indirectly also multiplying that error by 2. So this is the problem with boosting. And then we talk about the third aspect, the third type, which we call stacking. Stacking tries to avoid the problem of bagging, because bagging is just doing majority voting, ignoring the expertise. You have a very renowned senior doctor and a very junior doctor. You give them 1-1, yes or no. So in that case, we are ignoring expertise. But this one is given more importance to expertise, but at the same time, forgetting that you also multiply the mistake. So what stacking tries to avoid the problem of these 2, as we are going to describe later in a special form. Then we move further, discussing the value of ensemble. We review how we do sampling techniques, how we break our data into samples. It could be simple random sampling, it could be rash sampling with replacement, whereby a sample could be selected more than 1 time, and sample with replacement or without replacement. Now, then we revise ourselves about model development, why testing result is more important, why we have to make sure that we don't suffer the problem of underfitting or overfitting, as we have already discussed all this concept earlier. And then we show us this very nice picture of how ensemble is, let the individual algorithm, let them look at your data from different angles. See? So everybody will have a different idea, just like these guys are having different idea about this elephant because they're touching it from different sides. So the ensemble will now give you have model 1 that is special, that is able to recognize this side, this one, model 2, model 3. You can have up to so many models. So the ensemble will give you that opportunity to have a global picture. Then you can make a general, you have a better idea about the data. They can come together, collaborate, and they can achieve better results. I will give example of this fraudulent case. So, and then we move further to see how we train Ensemble. And finally, after discussing this, how you have input sample, you have the model A, model B, model C. You would let them give us your result or your output. Then we vote to select which one is going to go. For example, I train only 3. This one say yes, this one belongs to class 1. The input is going to be class 2. This one is going to be class 1. So this is 2 against 1. So class, we are going to say, okay, the output is class 1 if we are using simple bagging. However, if this guy is reported to have maybe 76, if this one is having like a 75% accuracy, this one is also having 78% accuracy, and this one is having like 99% accuracy. If we decide to use boosting, maybe we assign this one to be ×3 and this one to be ×1, this one to be ×1. Even though this is the only one that is saying class 2, because we have given more weight to this model, it's going to be 3 against 2. 3 against 2. So it means the output is going to be class 2. That is when you use boosting. That the one that achieves the highest accuracy, we give it more voting right. So which is what the world is yet to start doing anyway when it comes to issue of majority voting or minority voting. Now, and then finally, we use this example to demonstrate how Ensemble of different weak learners can combine together to achieve even 100% accuracy. You see, these are models that are trained to predict weather. This is the weather reality. You can see, is it cloudy? Can the children go out to play? This is very nice weather. This is very nice weather. It's cloudy. It's cloudy. This is nice weather. This is nice weather. So model number 1, this is model 1. This is the first model that was built. So model 1. So model 1 is able to, this is the answer. This is the original. No, this is supervised learning. It's able to get this right. It's predicting this, yes. Mistake. This is the correct answer. This is what is predicted. So there's a mistake here, another mistake. So it means out of 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out of 7 data samples, model number 1 is able to achieve 4 correct out of the 7, 4 correct prediction. When you calculate it, that's going to be 57.14% accuracy. We go for the second one also. You can see the second one also made mistake in 3 places, just like the first one. It's 47%, 57.14%. But I want us to take note of something. This is where Ensemble, you can see that what this one is, the mistake that this one is making is not the one that this is making. That is why if the algorithms work in such a way that they are a kind of independent of each other, the outcome, this is the hope of Ensemble. We are hoping that the mistake that they are making is different, at least at some point in time. You see again, model 3, it got this one right, got this right. It's making mistake from, none of these guys is making any mistake from this. This is where this one made a mistake. The same thing goes to model 4. This one also has 3 mistakes, which is also 57.14. However, when you get to this guy, this is model 4, it's making only 2 mistakes. It made only 2 mistakes. So which is why you can see the accuracy is gone to 71.43. Look at this one, 2 mistakes, but these 2 mistakes are coming from different samples. And this is where Ensemble gets its power. It is expected that if you train as many as possible different independent models, though they will have their own mistake, but the mistake might be diverse. So where I'm making mistake, my friend is not making mistake. Where you are making mistake, I am not making mistake. So when we combine those efforts, our output together, we can see what we are going to get. Now, none of them is even near to, this is the maximum, 71.43. No 80%, no 90%. But now let's look at their voting. Now we want to combine them using simple majority voting. Let's say simple majority voting to see, okay, what's going to be the final output? This is the combiner. This is the ensemble now. Then how do you do that? We look at the classifier. Model 1 says the prediction here is cloudy. This one says cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. That is 4 against 1. So 4 against 1. So we're going to go for 4. Majority carries the vote. So we're going to predict, the prediction here is cloudy. When we combine with the original answer, you can see that we're correct. You see? Now we go to the second one. This one is predicting, this one is saying this is cloudy. The 3 of them are saying it's not cloudy. This one is saying, okay, it's cloudy. Now what do we have? We have 3 against 2. So we go for majority, which is, the answer is not cloudy. We got it right. We compare the answer. This is our prediction, and this is the given result originally. So we are correct. Then we move on again. 2 of them are predicting cloudiness. Why the 3? 1, 2, 3. The other 3 are saying no. Again, 3 against 2. We go for majority. So we are right. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Again, 3 against 2. Go for majority. So it's cloudy. We are right again. 2 against 3. Still 3 against 2. We go for majority. We are again correct. Here we have 1, 2, 3. 3 against 2 again. Here you go. We got it right. 2 against 3. That's 3 against 2 again. We got it right. Majority carry the vote. Now we count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are correct 100%. So this is the power of ensemble. How can we move from 57%, 71 maximum, being the maximum accuracy of the participating models? And here we achieve 100%. That is the power of ensemble, that once we are we've tried several, of course, it's going to take you a lot of time. I mean, training 5 models and then trying to do the voting, it takes some processing. But then if I'm going to move from 71% accuracy to 100%, I'm ready to do whatever it takes me to do that, actually. So this is a very clear, simple demonstration of why ensemble model might really worth it for you to consider, especially when you have tried several things to get your output to 100%, because in machine learning, we always want to achieve the maximum possible accuracy. So if ensemble can take us there, so in this particular case now, this is extremely very fantastic. We can get 100% from combining 57, 57, 57, 71, 71. That is legendary. But I'm not saying you have to get 100% always, but sometimes it depends on how complicated your data is. This data now favor our ensemble getting 100%. You might be able to push it to 90-something, 80-something, but at least there are rules that says you are not likely to get less than any of these combining models. That the minimum is for you to get the maximum here, actually, from experience. You will get something that at least you will not get lesser than the maximum of individual participating model in a normal scenario. And in most cases, you stand the chance of getting better result compared to individual participating model. So this is what ensemble model is trying to do. Now, how do we now do it? There are different ways to implement it, as we are going to see as we go. Now, so that was where we stopped last time. So try to repeat that so that we can get it clearly. So how ensemble could possibly assist you in your work. Now, so we have the concept of weak learner. So in ensemble method, so one combines multiple weak learners to make a strong learning model. You can see here. You can see these are weak learners. See, getting 57%. Poor guy, 57. Even this one is better, 71, but it's still low, especially if it is a medical application. We want to get as high accuracy as possible, mere 100% better. See, this is why we call usually the combined, the model, the participating model, we call them weak learner. This is the kind of terminology we use for it. And they are actually weak because no matter how strong you are as an individual, your understanding of a concept will be limited based on your own experience. So this is why they call it weak learner. It doesn't mean some weak learner got 90-something%, even 100%, but the idea is that as individuals, you are weak. This is the message, that the concept of referring to the participating model as weak learner, because naturally as individual, no matter how brilliant you are, how good you are, you have some weakness in you because of that individuality. Yeah, you have some weakness in you because of that individuality, the fact that you are an individual. So like I was saying, that the concept of weak learner 1, weak learner 2, whatever classifier you want to use, put them there up to N. So then the idea that, okay, you have a way you are going to combine them. So you can all see that from weak learners that are combined, we combine 5 weak learners, we're able to get a strong learner. See, our togetherness, our combination makes us become stronger. This is the message of ensemble. And this is a message that we all also need to imbibe in our day-to-day life. So the power of groups. So as we know, it's always better if you can work in groups, you get better results. So because as individual, no matter how good you are, you have your own weakness. So can the weakness of 1 be taken care of by weakness of 2? Can weakness of 2 be taken care of by weakness of 1? And that is what this data demonstrated. You can see that no one was missing this. Only this one is so weak here. He couldn't understand this sample. It's the only one that doesn't understand this sample. Others are getting it right. 2 guys here could not understand this sample. 3 guys are getting it. These guys are not understanding this. Other guys are getting it. This is the idea that each of them, no matter, even those ones that are strong, look at this. It's a very strong one. It's stronger than others. 71% compared to 57 is stronger. At least that's almost 20%, maybe 20% are us. Yeah, close to maybe this is 57, almost 14% different in the accuracy. But yet, it's making a mistake where these guys are correct. Even though this is 57, he got this correctly, but this guy with 70%, 71% accuracy is missing it. The same thing goes here. Only one guy is missing here. It's 57. This guy also misses it. So you have, no matter how strong you are as individual, this is why the concept of weak learner comes in. You have one way or the other that even if you are getting 99% accuracy, that your 1% error is still a mistake. We don't want it. So let another guy take care of your mistake, and then you combine together, you can be able to get the best result out. Now, reasons to use ensemble. What are reasons that could justify your use of ensemble? 1, if the data set is too large or too small. You see, this is one reason. Somebody asked this question last week. This is one reason why you might have to go for a sample. If your data set is too large, it means that there's no single algorithm that can go into your data and understand your data. Just like the elephant picture I showed to you earlier. It's so big that we need different algorithms to come in or different models to come and study it and then make a prediction for us. So I'm looking at it from the bottom side. I got all the bottom samples right. You look at it from the top side, you got all the top side right. Somebody come and look at it from the left side. We train as many models as possible. See, so if your data is too large, you can actually break your data into groups. See? And then take the average of the results. For example, you have data set that is having like 500 samples. Sorry, 500 features. Training with 500 features is really huge. And maybe you have 15,000 or 1 million samples down. So we can break it down. I'm going to discuss some of the ways we can play with ensemble later as we move on. So in this kind of case, we can decide to say, okay, we are going to train one ensemble, one weak learner with 10 features, another with 10 features, another with 10 features, like that, until we train like maybe 51 different models. Then we bring them together, and then we find the average or majority vote depending on the problem we are solving. And hopefully that should solve the problem of those. Because sometimes the data is too huge that you might not be able to run it except you have access to powerful machines, which might not be available for you. You put it to weaker, it's hung because the data is too huge, it's too big. Just break them down. So let different models work on each of them, and then you combine the result later. This is how you can solve the problem of data that is too large. And sometimes also the data is too small in the sense that every algorithm you are using, they are making mistakes. That is exactly the example we gave here. This data is too small. This is only seven samples. They couldn't understand them. So this one is making mistake in one, the other one is making mistake in one. So by the time we combine them together, the mistake of one, the performance of one will nullify the mistake of other and vice versa. And all of them combine together to get excellent results. This is why one reason why you should start thinking of ensemble is if your data is too large or if your data is too small. When you face any of these two, ensemble might be the best candidate for you to start exploring. So also when you have complex non-linear data, so data that is real-time, which is mostly non-linear, you don't understand the pattern of this data. They are coming in at real-time. So you don't really, today, it might favor you, the data might favor you today. Maybe you decide to use neural network. It could favor neural network today. Tomorrow, neural network might fail because it's a real-time data. Things keep changing. In that case, the best one to deploy is ensemble. Even if the data that is coming in decides to change pattern, it's unpredictable. Different model you have built there, each of them will be seen it from different angles. Today, model 1 might be the one that is performing better. Tomorrow it might be model 3. Next tomorrow it might be model 4. By the time you combine their results, you always get a better result. Just always refer to this kind of this particular page. See, let's say this is a real-time modeling. In the real time, this is what we have. By tomorrow, it could have a reversal of role. This 71 might come to this model might improve to 71, and this guy could degenerate to 57. But the fact that they are still combining their result, we ensure that we are always getting 100%, irrespective of who is failing based on the data that is coming in. Because this is the issue with complex data. It could be real time. The data, you cannot really predict what will happen. So in that case, your data is not fixed, therefore anything could happen to the model performance. Ensemble will always ensure that no matter what happens to the data coming in, my ensemble will take care of them. Since I have a group of models that will vote together to get us the better result as much as yeah, sorry. So what I was saying is that when we train individual models, there's no way you can be so sure about the class boundary that, okay, underfitting or overfitting, because it's a complex data, different attributes could keep, different pattern of the data could be coming in at different time. So in that case, once we have it, we always get model. If one model fails, the other model might not fail. And then we combine them together. Another reason to use ensemble is high confidence. You are likely going to have high confidence in the output of your work. So when we train a model with multiple classes and get high correlated output, this situation leads to high confidence. That is, you are sure that, okay, what I'm getting out of this is, at least all of them cannot combine to make mistake. See? So most of the models predict the same class, which leads to a high confidence. Oh, all of them are getting this right. Okay, that means this is correct. See, so we give you that kind of confidence in the output of your work. Of course, the need for higher performance accuracy is always there. Another reason why you have to use ensemble. The performance accuracy is very, very, you really need it to go up, you go for ensemble. But no matter how powerful an algorithm is, as an individual, there is always a limitation. So why do we use ensemble? Better accuracy sometimes in order to get better accuracy, which is low error, high consistency by avoiding overfitting, and then reduce bias and variance errors. So when and where to use ensemble models, when you develop your single models and it overfits, then that is a place you need to start thinking of ensemble. It's always overfit. You have tried it. Overfitting means it will perform on your training set, but when you bring in the testing result, the testing set is not performing there. That is overfitting. So during the training, you are getting like 99% accuracy, but when you do testing, it goes down to 50% or something, even lesser than that. You say this is overfitting. You try several different models, you are facing this challenge, then it is time for you to start considering ensemble. When the result worth the extra training, because nothing goes for nothing. So you just have to spend some time to do the training for the ensemble. Imagine one of the examples I gave to us, they train almost 105 weak models. You train 105 individual models and then combine them. To train 105 model, it's not a joke. It needs a lot of effort. So do you just go for this effort if it's not really necessary? For example, already I have an individual model that is getting 99%, 98% accuracy. Do I really need to waste my time on training other model to build ensemble? Maybe in medical, but some guy will tell me, some material science guys say, no, we don't need that high level of accuracy. 85% accuracy is good for me. I've seen someone told me that. I said 85 is low. He said, no, it's fine. So we tell you 85 is good for the area we are using it for. Our error is it's not really needed that it has to be so down. But the medical want to get it right. So we might say, okay, if you're getting 98%, okay, let's try more. Why not? We can get 100%. So you have to answer that question. The result the improvement you are trying to get, does it really worth the extra effort you're going to put into developing ensemble? If the answer is no, it doesn't worth it, then you don't need to go ahead with it. Which means not all problem needs ensemble. So you can easily use the simple algorithm K-nearest neighbor and get very excellent result, 99% accuracy. Then why are you going for ensemble? Depending on the area you are working. So ensemble also can be used for classification as well as regression. So you can use it for both classification and also regression, as the case may be. Now, that is on why use ensemble and when and where to use ensemble. Now, so the next thing we are going to pick on is what we call the generic method of constructing Bayes classifier for an ensemble system. So how do we construct the Bayes classifiers? Remember that Bayes classifiers they are the same thing as the one we call weak learners. Weak learners. Those are the individual learners or classifiers that you want to put together. And then later you can combine them. So how do we construct those individual ones, those weak learners? There are several ways of constructing them. See, usually an ensemble classifier, it constructs a set of Bayes classifier from the training data. So what are the ways you have to do it? There are 4 generic ways to construct Bayes learners. 4 generic ways to construct Bayes learners. The first one is to manipulate training set. You try to do resampling of your training set. We're going to take each of them one after the other so that we get it each other right. You manipulate training sets. You try to do, okay, resample. These are training sets. Try to resample it. Do another resample. It means the one that is training this time around is not part of the testing next time. Keep resampling in different ways. This is called manipulating training set. Manipulating input features. The second option is you try to manipulate the input features. Okay, I want to train like 5 classifiers, and I'm having like 15 features. So divide the features. Use 1 to 5 classifier features to train first one. Use 5 to 10 to train another one. Use number 10 to number 15 to train another one. Then use number 4 to number to number 9 to train another one. Then use number 6 to number 11 to train another one. I mean, you try to train different classifiers using different combination of the features. This is called manipulating input features. Sometimes also you might need to manipulate the class labels. So this is when we have multi-class problem. When you have multi-class problem, you have to predict, you need to predict multiple outcomes. For example, we want to know the grade of student, which could be A, B, C, D, E, and so up to 5 or 6 or more. So we might try to manipulate them. Can we combine? Can we reduce it? This is A, B, C, D, E, F. Can we reduce it into pass or fail? Pass or fail. Can we do it first? Can we first of all decide if the student will pass or fail? So from 5 classes or 6 classes, we make it into 2 classes first. Then we come back again and train another model and try to say, okay, can we combine A and B together? Or maybe let's say we have A plus, B plus. Okay, can we train one with all of them? Can we train another one with combination of different parts of them? So this is manipulating class labels. So, and also we could have manipulating learning algorithms. So whereby we don't touch feature, we don't touch the labels, we go into the algorithm themselves by trying to change the algorithm. The first time we use 2 layers, the second time we use 3 layers, the third time we use 5 layers. We keep changing the topology of the algorithms so that every time we train a model, we're using the same data and it could be different data, which means you can combine any of this with the other. But let's say we are doing it as individual. Okay, we're only manipulating the learning algorithm. The same data is fixed, but then we are changing, we are tweaking the algorithm. For example, our friend KNN, we've discussed that a lot. For those new, we can check out the video in the archive. KNN, one of the very important parameter there is the number of K. So you can train an algorithm with K is equal to 1. This is first model, model 1. Model 2, K is equal to 2. Sorry, K is equal to 3. If it is 2 class problem, you cannot have the same number of class because you need to vote. So we use odd number. Model 3, K is equal to 5. Each of this is like a new model. This is a different model. By changing the K, you are arriving at a different model entirely. So you train as many as possible and then you let them combine together, combine them to see how they're going to perform. This is when we talk of manipulating learning algorithms. Then we're going to pick each of these options one after the other, and then we're going to demonstrate how you can use it in your own work. So on the theoretical aspect, this is where we're going to call it a day here today. However, before we go, I'm going to introduce us. Let's go to Weka and see for ourselves some of the concepts we've yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
I mean, can you see the software, the Weka?
No.
Okay. Okay, you can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
As usual, this is your Weka. So if you don't have this, I encourage us to get it installed. So we keep Explorer. So we open the file. This is the first step. You can see you cannot do anything here. So we know this already. So you open your file. So usually we have, you put your folder where you like it to be, your project you are working on. But then once you install your software, there's a free data here. Look at this. So program file, you see Weka there. So you can see free data. Usually we can use this for practice. Let's open diabetes. Diabetes is a very common problem these days. So we open it, this is the data. So this is the class you want to classify. You can see it has 2 classes. This is tested negative, people that are negative, 500, people that are positive to diabetes, 208. So these are the attributes. Attribute 1, attribute 2, attribute 3. So you have them. This is the class. The last one here is the class that we want to predict. So let's go in classifier now. Usually, let's go to lazy classifier. We described this before, IBK. This is IBK, which is nearest neighbor. Show me your friend and tell you the kind of person you are. So if I know if 2 of your neighbors also, if they are diabetes, I can be able to predict if likely that person is. So you click here, you can set, this is K, this is one of the most important hyperparameter. Number of K is 1 here. So here also, you go here also to see it. You should the distance measure. We have shape distance, we have Euclidean distance, we have filter distance, we have Manhattan distance, Minkowski distance. These are the distance measure that we can also try. It's an hyperparameter for this algorithm. So we select the default is Euclidean distance. So if you run this, we are using percentage splits or we are using cross validation. Let's use cross validation. The data is not much, 10-fold. So you can always refer to our earlier video if anything is not clear. So we covered all this concept earlier. So you run the experiment, just click, the experiment is run. This is done now. You can see this is 70% accuracy. It means we are using just 1K and we are an Euclidean distance as the hyperparameter values. We are getting 70% accuracy, and this is the other detailed results. This is the confusion matrix. Okay. If you go in, I change this to 3. This is 70, take notes. I click run. Can you see it improved to 72? This is another model entirely. Even though it's the same algorithm, now I'm trying to manipulate the algorithm. I change it now, it's become 72. I'm still not okay with that. I want 5. So I click run again. You can see 73. It kept improving. So you can try that one at home. Let's say it keeps going. So I'm training different algorithms. So maybe at a point in time, even when I start checking, I change it to 15, then the performance goes down again. And then I was able to reach maybe 90%, and then it goes down. And I want 99% or 100%. So I might decide to go combine. I want to go for ensemble because I'm not getting 100% using this thing, or maybe I go with another one. So what do I go? I go to ensemble. This is our ensemble. You go here, meta. You can see meta learners. So this is why you have the ensemble. There are so many kind of default value, I mean, some kind of branded ones, but the one I want you to build yourself, like AdaBoost, somebody develop AdaBoost, you just click it and load your data, it will do ensemble for you. But then you might not really understand what is going on inside. But I'm going to start with you with a very simple one, the simple voting. You build your ensemble yourself. So let's pay attention to this. So you go in, you choose meta, then click vote. Now, so now you want to build your first ensemble. So you click here. This is the ensemble, you can see. So how do I want to combine? This is combination rule. This is your super classifier. How do I combine the result from the ensemble the weak learner I want to build? I choose it. I want majority voting. There's average probability, product of probability. I want majority voting. We'll discuss all those other options later, but let's go for majority voting because everybody knows what is majority voting. You just trade like 5 ensemble and then choose the one that has the best result for you. Okay, now once you have selected how you want to combine your ensemble, then this is where you need to define your classifier. You have to build the classifier. By default, it puts this classifier we call 0R. We don't want it. We can delete it. We don't want this classifier. Now we want to use KNN. So you just go here, go to lazy, choose IBK, set the parameter for IBK to be 1. And we are using Euclidean, that's fine. So, okay, this is for, we say add it. Choose again the same IBK, but this time around, I'm changing it to 3. And if you like, I don't want to use Euclidean distance. I want to use Manhattan distance. That's up to you. You can see now it's another algorithm entirely. It's like the same algorithm, but now I've changed the hyperparameter. Add it to it. So I go in again, the same IBK, I make it 5. So I'm still using Manhattan, I add it to it. Now I have 3. Let me stop as 3 because of our time. See, now I've built 3 ensemble from, I've built 3 weak learners, IBK1, IBK2, IBK3. The only difference is this one is having 1K, this one is having 3K, this one is having 5K, the number of K nearest neighbor. Even this one, yeah. So you can always double check to see what are the distance you have checked. This, you can see this one is 5. You can double check. This one is using, yeah, okay. It's using 3. Why this one is using 1? Okay. So now you can see here that the classifier is becoming 3. It used to be 1 here. It's telling you that you have 3 classifiers that you want to use to build your ensemble. 3. They are there for me now. So when I click OK, I'll build a classifier. You see, this is the voting classifier. You can click it again, you'll see here, there are 3 weak learners now. And now I want to go. And I've already selected that it must use majority voting. So I say, okay, start. So I click it to start. So it will build 3 different classifiers and make them to vote to select the best result that is possible. Now, it completed the result. So after completing the result, we can see now here it's getting 71% accuracy. That is, after training those models 3 times, and now I arrive at voting among them. For every sample of testing set, I'm going to see what you are contributing. This one is saying yes, this one is saying no, this one is saying yes. Okay, majority carries the vote, 2 against 1. So this is just a demonstration for us. See how you can build an ensemble. However, it is recommended to build a sample using different models. I have 3KNN here. Okay, let me go inside it here. Let me look for another one. Let me bring in SVM. Go to function, SMO, support vector machine. Let me add it. Okay, that's fine. I have 4 now. But if it is majority voting, don't make it 4 because they cannot vote. I think that's a simple rule. So rather, let me add 1 more, maybe another support vector machine. SMO, support vector machine. Add it there, that's fine. If you want to use majority vote, then you need to have odd number. So, okay, then you start. Can you see something? Can you see the improvement now? Because I brought in support vector machine, now we have 5. The accuracy already improved up to 75%. You see? And I will add something that even the ensemble, we are the weak learners, the SMO I'm using here, I'm using default parameters. Before I even use the SMO, I'm supposed to do optimization for it. What is the best value of C for my SMO? Maybe C here is 100. I tried different values. So by the time you run it again, you might end up having even better results. See? Idea of ensemble. So when you combine various methods together, then they can combine together to give you the power of ensemble. So this is how you can run an ensemble from the weaker environment. So, and I recommend us, like I said, try to practice some of these things, concept at your own pace. And then if you have any issue, we can always come back to the class, or you can also contact me privately. So this is where we're going to call it today, inshallah. So Barakallahu Feek. If there's any question, we can take 1 or 2 questions before we close.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Well,
I have a question. Now that when you chose because I see a lot of them, a lot of the ensemble, like when you choose the ensemble, is there a logic behind choosing which one? Or like, do you choose it randomly, or what you're familiar with? Because there's a lot of.
yeah, you mean this ensemble option, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm starting with voting because it's the simplest for you new people to understand. Okay. Yeah. So as we move on, we are going to describe the different options that are available. Because if I go to start with stacking, the complication might confuse a lot of people. We are still going to do stacking. Actually, stacking came to solve the problem of bagging and boosting. You see, saying majority votes, or I give more weight to one professor, who may also make mistake in another place, which means we are going to be multiplying his own mistake. So we go for stacking. It has its own idea. So we are starting with voting. Sometimes, like always remember the principle of let the data speak. We will have to try different ensemble to see the one that work for us, actually. Because the data that is coming in, we don't understand the pattern this data is going to give to us. So we try voting, we try stacking, we try bagging. Then we see them and combine them together and see which one works for us. This is one of the challenges of machine learning. We might have to try different options because you cannot just sit down with one option and say, oh, voting ensemble is the best. It could be best for a particular data set. Next data set, it might not be the best for it. So for now, I've decided to start with the one that is simple, which is voting, because we all do it in our day-to-day activity in the departmental meeting. If we are unable to have unanimous decision, we go into voting. Okay, you support, you say yes, you don't support, you say no. So this is ensemble based on simple voting, simple majority. So I hope I answer your question, Doctor.
Yes, so it's, that's how I thought about it. It just goes on experience, you need to train, and goes on like with time, you'll get familiar with it. I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. So once you select one, you can always play with other one. We can also try with stacking, we can do with bagging, and then see which one goes for us. So at least we are going to do the voting. We are going to describe bagging, then we go for stacking. Finally, these are all variants of either of these three. So bagging, stacking, and then we have boosting. So they're all variants playing around it, and then see to get better result. Another question? Okay, thank you all for coming. So I think this is where we're going to call it a day.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Wa iyyakum, barakallahu fikum. So next week, yeah, wa iyyakum, barakallahu fikum. So next week, next week is going to be, maybe for the sake of maybe some of us that might be participating in the Hajj this year, we wish you a successful Hajj, so acceptance. So in that case, so we might have to maybe pause for next week, and then inshallah we're going to meet after the Eid time, which is going to be 15 days time, inshallah, so that we opportunity for those people going for Hajj not to miss classes. May Allah accept our ibadah in this very blessed 10 days and accept our sacrifices.
Out stuff. So I'm wondering if ensemble can actually help with helping solve a problem of bad data. Is it able to solve it?
Thank you very much, Prof, for the question. Yeah, actually, that is actually where ensemble might be a very good thing. If you look at one of the reasons why we use ensemble, when we have complex data we don't really, it's a little bit tough because we cannot, let's say data is bad, it's only because our algorithm doesn't understand the data. Let's point out. We say, okay, the data is not, the fact that we don't understand it, another guy might be able to understand it. But then when no single algorithm could understand it, because we say the data is a little bit complex, it would mean the data is dirty. But in this dirty environment, we might still be able to combine different efforts. So the answer is categorically yes. Ensemble was to turn data set that we thought was useless, it could actually assist us to turn it to get good results out of it. Because the idea of the data was that the individual algorithm were not able to leverage to understanding the data and making good prediction out of it. But now we now say, okay, do whatever you can do. Let's train several algorithms, let them combine together their result and see maybe we get better results. So this is exactly one of the areas where Ensemble could be deployed to get data that have been condemned, that's not been good, hopefully to get it to speak clearly in what I so that the data might speak more clearly. So the data communicating well with individual classifier, but once we combine different efforts, so as we see in our case here, I think we can see our friend here. Can we see the screen?
Yes.
So this is the example, perfect example now goes to this. Getting 57% accuracy in the classifier, it shows that data is very tough actually. But 57 is very low. Yeah, it's not considered a pass mark actually. Though it could be above 40, it's not considered a pass mark for a classifier. So this is a very tough data because the data is very few. And data could be bad because it is too few. It's not enough for the system to understand, or it's dirty because there are a lot of noises, outliers, and so many things that is making individual models not to perform. But despite the fact we can see that with Ensemble, how are we able to turn 57 to become 100% accuracy? That is the power of Ensemble. So, and that's when people complain that their data is not getting good work, good results. Try Ensemble, but then it doesn't mean that the Ensemble will always give us 100% or it will work. We might have a super bad data, a data that's really. So in that case, you develop Ensemble, yet it's not getting you good result. You don't give up. You might invite some students or some colleagues to collaborate. I develop my own Ensemble on the same data. You develop your own Ensemble. Different people develop like 15 Ensemble. We're not talking of like 555 Ensembles now. We use this on this very difficult data. You might be surprised that the combination of our group efforts might lead us to excellent results. So the idea for the proponent of Ensemble is that if your Ensemble is not yet giving you a good result, you have not arrived at the appropriate number of Ensemble. Keep going. You get the point now. So you keep and combining until you get what you want or until you get tired, and then you give up. So thank you very much, Prof, for that question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So see us, inshallah, in 2 weeks' time, inshallah, we are going to reconvene for the next class.
Thank you, Dr. Adam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome, Doctor. Thank you very much. Barakallah feek.